We're off. Welcome to Conversations with the Coach, Crossing Bridges, the Power of Visualization. I'm Randy Levin, CEO and founder of Randy Levin Coaching. I'm a certified transitional life strategist, author, speaker, and reinvention expert, which is a really elaborate way of saying that we're just not the same at 40 or 50 or 70 years old that we were at 20, and we're not supposed to be. So I give my private clients and my audiences permission and support to change and pivot in their lives. And ask the question, really, what is your legacy? Because we think about legacy as something that happens for us late in life or after we're gone. But my challenge is that your legacy starts today. It's something you can be aware of and consciously choose every single day. So what's next? And what's next tonight is my wonderful co-host, Susan Grafe, who is a creative transformation expert. And I'm going to let Susan introduce herself and let her do justice to her own information. And then we're going to go right into why visualization is so important to us. Susan?
Thank you, Randy, for having me. It's very exciting. Actually, this is my first video blab, so this is really exciting. So, and that's what this is all about, taking risks in life, getting out of your comfort zone to make this transformation. So here I am, be witness to it. Anyway, I am a creative transformational expert, a healing arts professional, and I use the expressive, creative, and the healing arts to help women and children go through their transformation and dealing with the emotions through the art so they can actually see what their subconscious is. I believe that art makes our thoughts and emotions very perceptible so that it brings your subconscious to the conscious and is actually there, you see it, and you tackle it. I believe a lot of people have been going to therapists for so many years. It takes a long time because with art, it just happens so much quicker. You see it and there's no question. You can lie to your therapist. You can omit things from your therapist. But using arts is a way of actually seeing what the problem is and seeing patterns and revisiting them and tweaking them and making transformations so that you can live a healthier, happier, balanced life with a mended heart.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So if we can see it, Susan, we can achieve it, right?
Absolutely.
So out there, the possibilities are there. And so visualization helps us to manifest what we most want. It's almost like asking the universe, what do I want? This is what I want. So now I'm going to put it out there, and I'm going to put it out there in the form of art or in the form of something that I may be seeing in my life, but maybe not really understanding why I'm seeing that. What is that interpretation of it? So how can we use it as a marker for what's next? Let's say that we are seeing something, and I told everybody they're going to see my little Golden Gate Bridge. Okay, it's very significant. For Susan and myself, we both have had bridges as a visual in our lives that have had an amazing amount of meaning to us, and we are going to get into that. But how can we use any kind of visual as a marker for what's next in our lives? What does it tell us?
I think when we see the issues, it's kind of like when we're drawing or we're dancing or whatever the art is. It becomes, we start noticing patterns. It's a way of being mindful in an active way. It's active mindfulness. You know, it's not like you're sitting there and you're oming and trying to get rid of all the stuff that keeps coming in our head. It's actually a way of recording what it is we're thinking and what our emotions are, so we see it. And whether you're journaling or you're drawing or you're a dancer, or you're an athlete, whatever it is that you do that's actively mindful, you always take a moment to step back so you can observe what you've done and you can tweak it. If you're an artist, you might want to make it a different blue, or if you're a dancer, you realize you need to do a deeper plie, or an athlete, got the right golf swing, whatever it is. But as long as you see it, it becomes our reality and we can tweak it.
Exactly. But I think that a lot of us miss it. We're all storytellers, essentially. And that's a good thing because we need to have a story and we need to keep reinventing that story. But often our stories protect us, okay, because we allow them to have not really play out in their fullest capacity. We tell ourselves a lot of things, why something can't be, or we don't have the time for it, or maybe at another point in time, or we're afraid of something. So we stay with what's comfortable and we stay with what we know, and we don't always let our story unfold. For me, becoming a coach was my reinvention. And there was a lot of really significant little red flags that went up. There was that walking around saying, what am I going to be when I grow up? What's happening? There was the weight loss thing that is very significant as a flag that many of us have. And then there was this idea, this concept, Susan, of a bridge. But my initial bridge that I kept seeing, I knew it was a bridge. It had that beginning on one side and water and an ending, but it was more rickety. It almost looked scary. Cross, like something out of a fairy tale. And I kept saying, well, gosh, I don't know. Why do I keep seeing that? What is that? Where is that? Why is it in front of me? And it's scary. Do I want to cross that thing? And what's on the other side? And a friend who I was discussing that with said to me, well, why does it have to be a rickety bridge? And I hadn't thought about that. And I thought, well, it doesn't. And he said, well, what bridge do you like? And I said, I love the Golden Gate. He goes, well, then it's the Golden Gate Bridge. Boom. It was like the kick that I needed to tell my story differently. Because that moment that I started visualizing the Golden Gate Bridge, which I love, I've biked across the Golden Gate and walked across the Golden Gate, and driven across the Golden Gate, and love both cities that Golden Gate connects. Right. And for me, that was such a powerful visual. Well, gosh, if I am crossing from one side of my life to something new on the other side, well, it might as well be this majestic, powerful, incredible, beautiful Golden Gate Bridge. And so I took that visual and I looked in the mirror and I said, I am a coach. I'm doing this thing. And the rest is history. And it really was that kick, that piece that I needed to literally connect one side of my story to the other. So for me, it was a very, very, very strong visual. And I know that you have some bridges too that are part of your story, if you'd like to share that with everybody.
So, after I have 4 children and I was a stay-at-home mom for many years and married, but in the process, as my children was getting older, I had to figure out, what it is I wanted to do with myself. I was always my kid's mom. I was my husband's wife, but I needed to find me. And so I was always dabbling in all forms of the arts, and dance and drama and art and photography and meditation, yoga, healing, energy healing. But at one point I was in the photography in the lab, and I was at the ICP, International Center for Photography, taking a course, and I was developing one of my photographs. I had a series of like doors and windows and bridges. So I was developing my bridge, the George Washington Bridge, which we're nearby, and I love the bridge. They went like underneath in Edgewater. Anyway, so I was developing this picture, and all of a sudden the teacher comes over to me and she sees this picture. She says, "This is a great photograph, but why are you doing this? Why are you photographing this bridge? Why can't you get to the other side? What are you looking for?" And she really, that was my aha moment. She's like, how did she know? She was analyzing my art. And how did she know I was looking for something more than what I had at the moment? So that was my bridge. And as a matter of fact, I wrote a chapter on crossing bridges. So I know we talked about that in an upcoming book that I've written a chapter for, calling Crossing Bridges. And it's Life Sparks, and it's very exciting. It's coming out in August.
That's great. That's wonderful. And same thing here. I have the brand new Get Results that just came out, and it's an anthology series, and I have a chapter, and it's called Signs from the Road of Life. And what do you think? One of the main things that I talk about is all these signs, all these visuals that we either see or we don't see, one of them being a bridge for me personally, but just being mindful of what our lives are telling us, because our lives speak to us. We don't always hear, or we don't hear at the moment. And we're busy talking about bridges, but there's all kinds of visuals that we have. If you would share your yellow flower story with us, it's an incredible story, and I think very meaningful.
Thank you. Yellow flowers, as you can see behind me, is a very strong symbol for me. I think it was around the time I was at ICP. I was going through a little depression. I had lost my parents many years ago in my 20s, and I went to visit them at the cemetery, and it was a very dreary day. It was very, very typical of what you would think it is to be like to go to a cemetery. And I just stood there and I cried, and then I looked down and I opened my eyes, and right between my parents' stone was a little yellow dandelion flower. And I thought it was odd, and I looked around the entire cemetery. I looked everywhere. I didn't find another flower anywhere. And I just thought that that was like strange for me. But at the time, I was journaling and drawing at the same in my journals. So I decided to draw this image. And as I was drawing this image, I kind of like had this little yellow flower grow to be a huge flower that shaded both of my parents' grave in my drawing. And I came to realization that, this yellow flower is greater than I can imagine, because it grows even if it grows from death, there's always something that can bloom from death. Even if you feel so low, there's always something that can bloom. And that yellow flower represented my parents. They were shading me, they were protecting me, and they're guiding me. So every once in a while, when I'm feeling a little down, somehow some yellow flower pops up, and that becomes my symbol. I follow yellow flowers and I keep them with me, and somehow I find connections to certain people because of this yellow flower.
That's a beautiful, beautiful story. And I bet if most people reach into their own heads a little bit, you can think of situations in your own life that there may be a piece or an element of that, and you may have recognized it or not, or why is that yellow flower there? Oh, if we use that information, it can be very, very empowering.
I know that a lot of people have symbols of birds or of butterflies, and I know Dwayne Wire, he had that symbol of a butterfly. I don't know if you ever read that book. I don't recall what it is. It was a beautiful book about the butterfly. I just remember it right now. I don't remember it.
But the other thing that I think that people don't realize as much is that, okay, it's one thing to say a bridge because we can envision one side to the next side. And it's another thing to say a flower. Okay, that's growth, that's life, it's sheltering, it's, rebirth, it's all of these things. But I don't think that we readily think of some of the other things that are visuals that lead us to something. And I want to throw out there the concept of a person being a powerful visual. And I think that we all have people at some point in our lives that we're not really 100% sure why they're there. Who is this person? They're not really my friend. They're not really this thing or that thing. You don't even know why this relationship is happening at that time until somewhere along the way. It's either during or after you figure out a little piece of it. But people themselves can almost be a bridge, taking you from one part of your life to another, from one phase into whatever's next, or maybe being that cheerleader or encouraging you in some way to take steps that you may not have taken forward. So it's almost like they can, as a human, also be a bridge to something else.
Right. And also, it's not always just the positive, it's also the negative people that come into our life because they teach us a lesson. And they keep coming back until that lesson is learned. So for those who redo the same thing over and over again, it's our lesson to learn. Until you figure it out, it's going to reoccur.
It's true. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I know you talked about the gremlin and the little guy under the bridge, and right. A little bit of that in your story.
So I talk about the little troll. I don't remember the story of Three Billy Goat Gruff. It's a little tale about three goats who come to a bridge, and under the bridge is this ravenous troll. And every time the goat comes to the bridge, it jumps up to eat it. Mm-hmm. So there was this little three goats that came to the bridge. The first goat wanted to cross. The troll jumped up and he says, I'm going to eat you. He says, well, wait for my brother. He's bigger than me. So he said, okay. So he let him go. The second little goat comes up and says, wait for my third brother. He's even bigger than me. Then comes a third brother, and third brother is so big with horns, and he knocks the troll over, and he won't let him get in his way, and he also crosses the bridge. So I like to think of the troll as that negative talk that we have with ourselves that don't allow us to cross over the bridge. And if we can figure out a way to cross over the bridge and not let it become an obstacle, then we can get what we really need in our life.
Absolutely. So what are some ways that we can use visualization in the everyday? Really, really be able to use it.
Well, I think always, for me, it starts with either journaling or meditation every day. Meditation should just be centered and to be present. Journaling is to become more aware of what your needs are. And I think every day we should always have a list of what our goals are for the day. And sometimes we have larger goals. We need to take smaller steps so we don't feel overwhelmed. And also we need to listen to that inner talk, the inner critic, because the inner critic is very loud and we need to shut it up and hear what it says and then shut it up and then use our inner wisdom to actually, listen to our intuition and know how to go forth.
And I love the idea of journaling, because not everybody is an artist or feels that they're an artist. We can all draw something, but we can all write something. Whether
writing
or not, it could be words, it could be sentences, it could be a letter you're writing to someone else to express something or to apologize or to get something off your chest. But
loss or grief, for everything. I have my clients journal all the time. I think it's important.
And connections between the two. Some people are able to do both and actually connect the visual to a journaling exercise and really be able to center themselves by coming forward with a whole vision.
Right.
Yeah. So we're going to do a little visioning for anybody who's watching this or anybody who watches on the replay. We're going to talk about really drawing a picture of kind of Susan's story of that troll, that gremlin, that thing of that fear. What's that thing that's holding you back from something you most want? And how can you express that artistically? And I know you do lots of this with your classes and workshops and stuff. So take that forward a little bit more.
It doesn't have to be a drawing. It could be a writing it as well. I just believe that in the front of the bridge, we have to understand where we are right now. And at the end of the bridge is where we want to be, our final destination. And that creates an intention for us. That creates a place that this is what we want, and we're putting it out to the universe. And also I believe in not only putting out what we want, but also to put a date. I think it's very important to set a date and to create an intention, and this way it gives us a time slot for us to get it done. Mm-hmm. And on the bridge, I create little steps. And for each step towards your final, destination, you put in what your intentions are for each step. And under each step, hear yourself and think about what is that troll telling you. And if it's saying something negative, or this will never be, you're never going to make it, you're too, stupid, or you're too fat, or whatever it is that we tell ourselves, we need to create the opposite. And we need to create, saying, I'm wonderful, I'm not fat, I can do it, I have the energy to do it. Create positive, because for every negativity that we tell ourselves, we need to at least 7 positives to counteract it. I know we talked about Play-Doh, and, we talked about Play-Doh.
Yes, we both use Play-Doh in our workshops. Yes,
it's a metaphor in life that we can always recreate ourselves. But what also I could do with Play-Doh is create a little ball and pretend it's like your brain, and you take the back of the pencil and you dab into it over and over again. And that's your negative talk. You can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. And it creates a deep impression in the center of this of the Play-Doh, which is kind of like what's deeply embedded in your mind. Mm-hmm. You have to create the opposite effect to push it out so that it would level it out and balance the Play-Doh of the brain.
Exactly. And I love the idea of kind of the bridge or whatever it is that your vision is, almost having those little lines on it, like a timeline.
Right.
Things. So each notch of that timeline is a step. Yeah. And so when that little nasty little gremlin comes up and says, no, you're not going to be able to do this. You know, look at it and say, okay, well, there's another little notch and I made it to that notch. So if I could make it there, I can do another one.
Exactly.
You know, I always use this example. I always tell people, you know, it's people want change and they want, you know, whatever it is fast. And it always starts with, you know, wait, so I'm going to join the health club and I'm going to do whatever. And I say, okay, great. But you don't have to join the health club yet. You do it by sneakers. You lace them up and you have to go out and you have to take that first step. And sometimes using that visualization can provide that for you free of charge. It's something that you can change up or something you can keep the same. So you can do the visual and that can be your visual for 2016, your visual for the month of June, your visual for this week, this day. You can change it up as often as you like to. But be mindful of other little signals that happen with that. Right? Because there's...
Right. And like you said, like I think a lot of people just want a quick fix. So I want to lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks. And it's really not going to happen. Right. And if you do, it's going to come right back on.
Exactly. And that's, I'm going to do the cleanse. Well, what do you think is going to happen when you're not doing the cleanse?
Right. So it's all about little increments and lessons to learn.
Never eat again. It's coming back. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
So, you know, it's being mindful of all of it altogether. So anyway, we wanted to ask people if they wanted to take a moment just to do that, to draw a visual, if anybody wanted to share that. We do have somebody calling in. We could see what happens with that. Braveheart. I don't know if you're drawing us a picture or not, or what the story is with that, but let's see. So anyway, if it's not something you're doing now, then definitely something that you want to do on your own. You know, and it's something you could do at the end of the day. It's something you do at the end of the week. But just create that idea for yourself and that timeline for yourself, essentially. And there's all little pieces of things. Once I personally decided myself that I was going to be a coach, just look like he's coming on. Once I decided myself that I was going to be a coach, logical next step. So I was talking to a business coach, looking to hire a business coach, and you know, in my head about stuff. And I was out west, and we're driving along, and I'd gotten off the phone with her, and I was, I don't know, blah 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 blah. And I look up, and the sign on the roadway was this woman's name. Like as I'm processing, okay, should I hire her? What should I do with that? I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. That's a sign. That's definitely a sign in the road, right? So we have to kind of acknowledge some of that because there's a lot of it, more than we give ourselves credit for seeing. Right.
When we're looking for it, it pops up. We have to acknowledge that what you're looking for.
Right, exactly. So it was a logical next step based on a sign on the street, essentially.
Signs. We talk about the yellow flowers and the signs. I remember the first time I got somebody had recommended I contact the Awaken Fair and participate in it. Mm-hmm. So I did. I emailed them. I signed up, and then I realized. I said, I have no idea what I signed up for. So I said, okay, 2 days later, I said, I'm going to call them up. What did I sign up for? And I called them up, and they said, well, I signed up to talk for 45 minutes. And at that point, I hadn't spoken that long, so I was a little nervous. And what was really interesting is, like I said, I didn't know what to talk about. I didn't know what I was going to say. And I went to the Hay House conference where they have all these, inspirational speakers. And all of them talked about shifting. So that's when I came up with the idea of shifting through the arts. Mm-hmm. And then I went to this guy, Robert Reeves. He was he was like, I guess, a reader through flower cards. And my girlfriend said, let's go online. I said, I'm not interested. She said, let's do it. So I went. And, of course, I was the last person online. And I chose the flower card. And you can guess it was a yellow card. But what was really interesting about this yellow flower was that it was a daffodil. And the guy turns around, he says, you don't understand the importance of this flower. He says, you need to speak. The daffodil has a horn. You need to toot your horn. You need to share your knowledge. You can't keep it all to yourself. So that was my sign of saying, okay, I really will speak, and I'm not going to cancel. And that's what I did. And it worked out well because I spoke, and it was great. I had an amazing demo for the first time, my wow demo. And I got some clients. So it was meant to be. So we all have to be very in tune to our symbols and signs.
And I think we tend to miss a lot because we're very busy and we're running from thing to thing. And, it's scary to acknowledge it sometimes because, wow, what do we do with that? It's right in front of me.
Right.
We have the same caller again. Let's see if this works this time. I have no idea. So anyway.
Yeah. And I talked about journaling is important. We talked about because of patterns that come up and dreams that come. If you can journal your dreams, you'll see where you go.
Right. We have audio only. And we can't hear you. Are you speaking?
Hello, can you hear me?
A little bit. A little.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
What about now?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Okay. Hello.
We're good.
How are you, ladies? Okay, good. I do not speak English very well, but I'm gonna try to. My name is Taha, and I am from Morocco. And today I'm going to share with you my failure story, if you would like to.
Go ahead.
Okay, I remember when I was a first-year student. Now I'm the third-year student at the university. I remember when I was a first-year student at the university, I wasn't serious enough. I was just a new student who just want to hang around with friends and so on. You know what I mean. So I wasn't serious, in fact. So when the study began, there was a teacher who hates me, and I didn't know why. I still didn't know why he hates me. So one day I went to pass my midterm exam, and he was staring at me.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, he doesn't have a strong internet. Maybe he'll come back on. Hello. Yeah, we can't.
Hey,
Oh, wait.
The beauty of Blab. It's vulnerability at its best. It's whatever it is. Yeah, we can't hear you. And actually, people had said that they couldn't hear you who were on the Blab also. If you want, you can try calling in again. I'm going to X you off, but if you want to try calling in again, sometimes a connection can get better as we go forward. But yeah, we were talking about the whole idea of asking, and it's kind of an art form to kind of ask the universe for the things that we want, or what's next, or should I be looking for something, and what am I looking for? But it involves almost like what just happened. It involves being vulnerable and allowing things to just be, which we're probably all not really that great at, because we want them to be perfect and we want them to be a certain way. And when we envision something, we usually envision that perfect bridge, right? I mean, I first envisioned the rickety, horrible bridge with the stones and the rocks and the rope and the stuff. So I don't know. I guess I envisioned the worst case scenario first. But, normally it's that perfect thing. And then we feel like, okay, well, we can't have the perfect thing, so we may forget about it. But I guess we're kind of here to say, don't forget about it. Use it. Use it to work for you. Okay, so what's the next element that you can take? Where can you take that? How can you address that thing that you most want, and make it happen on some small step along that little timeline on Susan's bridge.
But if anybody wants a handout of that bridge, I'd be happy to offer it to them. They just have to email me at artmenshearts@gmail.com. I'd be happy to provide them with with the template of my little bridge, and they can use it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's a great idea if somebody's journaling already to stick that inside a journal and kind of keep on going with that.
And they can make copies for whatever, whatever goals they have.
Right. Exactly. So anyway, how can creative expression work for us in terms of balance and perspective? So kind of to the point of what I was just saying, we all want perfect. It's not perfect. We couldn't hear him. Jessica couldn't hear him. We lost him. There was no visual. Life is not a perfect piece of cake. It's
right. I mean, and we could actually sat here and get frustrated and get upset with whatever it is. But we can't. Life is not perfect. We need to let go of some form of control. And, I think one of my kids, the one line she hates to hear from me is, "It is what it is." By the way, it is what it is.
Perfect.
Because sometimes you just can't harp on these things. You have to learn to let go. I mean, we have a lot of anger issues. We have a lot of frustration issues, and it actually physically affects us if we don't learn to let go and say imperfection is okay and nobody is perfect. It creates stress. It can create illness. It can create, mental issues and emotional issues and physical issues and really keep us off balance. And that's why it's important to embrace the imperfections and say, it's okay.
Exactly. And to the point, you're bringing up the Play-Doh before, and I love using it, which was your idea, which I adapted into my workshops, and I love using it. And I use it really metaphorically because I talk a lot about play, because I think as adults we need to have that element of play in our lives. We need to have our own personal time, our hobbies, the things that we want to try and do, the downtime. And so when I use the Play-Doh, I always talk about how it's contained and what's inside. We know what's inside. It's not a mystery, but we can't wait to open it, because it's always when you hand out the Play-Doh, people want to open it before you're there, because they know what's inside it. So it's nostalgic. It's this great thing. But we keep the lids on our lives very often, very much like the lid on the Play-Doh is kept. And nice and safe, and everything that's inside is exactly what it is, and we know what it is, and it's predictable, and it's safe, right? It's safe inside the can. But when we take that lid off, and take the lid off metaphorically of our lives, anything can happen. And it may be great, it may not be so great. We may see those signs on the road, we may not. We may be looking for some help in that way. But if we don't get out of the can, so to speak, we don't know. We can't experience any of that. And so, there's so many different things that we can use as visuals for ourselves, that being one of them.
Yeah. There's always some visuals that we can use. I love the Play-Doh, like we talked about that before. It's funny. I find that when we use a little bit of these regressive, childish mediums, finger painting and crayons and Play-Doh, it brings us back. It's nostalgic. It brings us back to our childhood. So when I work with my clients and we get regressive, because I need to get them back to their childhood to understand where they come from and the emotions they had as a child, and they carry it because they're all stuck in our memory cells, whatever the issues were. It really brings the child out in everybody. And, it's something special about those, about having that, about dealing with those regressive materials that I do. And I love dance and love play and drama and role playing. And we do all of that when I work with my clients, as well as meditation and energy healing and regression and breathing techniques. They're all different ways of embodying experience and understanding everything that's going on around us.
Yeah. And in coaching too, that whole idea of role playing essentially is the visuals that I use in coaching, where I'll ask a question that no one else will ask you. What would it look like if your life had X, or, those types of things. And people don't stop to think about what would it look like? What would it feel like if I did have that? And if I let myself do that, if I tried that, what comes to mind? And so we take on that role play almost of, okay, so now I'm that person and I have that in my life. So, wow, now look. So there's all these elements of our childhood. And one of the reasons that I put together the Recoloring Life workshops was based on not only this hot trend of coloring, but the reason behind the hot trend of coloring. And that is nostalgia and, connecting back to yourself, having that sound, quiet moment to reconnect to what's important to you, to be able to be creative. Because when we're creative, we think differently than when we're doing and processing other things. When we allow ourselves to be creative, whether it be journaling, whether it be a craft that we're doing, scrapbooking, coloring, any of these types of things, art in any way, dance, all creative arts. And one of the reasons that they give us back so much as adults is that it frees us from the day-to-day and the screens and all of the stuff in front of us and allows us just to be with our thoughts. Right. A lot of us have forgotten how to daydream, Susan. Right. Think about it. I say this all the time. We sit in a restaurant, I'm waiting for you for lunch, and the phone's out, and I'm scrolling. Victim. I'm not looking outside. I may be sitting outside, but I couldn't tell you who walked by or what they look like. We all do it. Right. And so my own personal challenge for myself this summer is the pause, and to pause long enough to be able to daydream again, because it's become, an art form versus something that we just normally do. Right.
I mean, I think child's play is long gone. I think even in our education system, when we grew up, children had to sit in their seats with their hands folded and have to behave and can't speak and cannot get out of the chair unless they were so controlled. And, art was not one of the things that they talked about. They really taught, I don't know if you're familiar with Ken Robinson. He does an amazing TED Talk on how education system needs to be changed. The paradigm has to be changed because everything was taught to the left brain, language and, all that stuff, but it wasn't taught to the right side of the brain. The creative side, the emotional side, and the artistic side. And that became a problem for children who have dyslexia, because those with dyslexia, the language part is the left part of the brain. If they can't process it correctly, then how are they going to learn? So now I know many schools are finally coming up with the idea of integrating the arts, so they could, so children can see it or feel it or become it. I think I had one teacher in high school. I was a math and science student. I was not an English history student, and I remember sitting in 11th grade. We had this teacher. She was so theatrical, jet black hair and false lashes and blue eyeshadow. We just laughed, because we're kids, at how she was, and she's so dramatic. But what I realized what she did and I loved about her is that when we read books, it wasn't just reading in class, go home and study and read it. She had us all take a chapter and we had to act it out. So each chapter, we all took turns as groups, the little mini groups, acting it out. So you now embodied the character. You got engaged with your friends performing and you performing. Mm-hmm. And it really took the book and made it, for me as a creative person, it came to life, and I really understood it. I mean, the cone of learning is using all of our senses to mm-hmm. learn, to remember, to process. And the more senses we use, the more we remember. So he was really affected me after all those years. Like, and that's the way I actually help my children learn and help my students. I work with some students, so I help them learn that way too.
It really is a big deal, especially today where, there's so much screen time. There's so much time spent, interacting with virtual. Yes. And so we forget how to interact with each other. We forget how to play. We forget how to respond to certain things. And our kids, definitely, if it's happening to us and we're changing because of that, can you imagine they don't have the bandwidth to have had the experiences we have where things were one-on-one and right. that daydreaming, and there was that downtime, and there was that separation from school. School didn't come home with you.
Right.
School comes home with you. Work comes home with you. You go on vacation, everything shifts with you. So that's all changed how we look at everything that we do. All the more need for some of us to really take a look at some of the visuals that are out there for us and what the interpretation of that is.
Yeah.
He's trying to call in again. We can try that one more time. See if we can hear him or not. Hello? Hello? Yeah, I need really strong internet on Blab. Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. So if you wanted to finish your story, you can.
Well, sorry for what happened earlier. Sorry for what it happened earlier.
Okay.
Did you hear him?
I think he apologized for what happened earlier. I'm not sure. Hello? We apologize. We're getting poor signal.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. Sometimes the internet, especially if you go audio only, is very iffy. If you're not using Chrome, and if you're not, if you've got Windows open and you don't have strong internet to start with, it can interfere. Anybody has any questions for us? Any questions?
I'd like to share some stories of, what comes up with that, with people when, when they draw, what changes they can make. I have this one client, she has been feeling quite invisible lately. She's complaining that nobody's contacting her. She had lost her parents. She lost her husband a while back. And, so she feels very alone. Mm-hmm. And one of the drawings that she has drawn of her family, of her childhood, she drew a picture of her parents, and she's an only child. And she just kept staring at the picture and just like, I don't see myself. I don't see myself. I can't draw pictures. I don't see myself. So in essence, she's invisible to not only other people, but she's invisible to herself. And that became her lesson. And she's been out there. She's been making change. We have lists. We have little mini bridges. And she keeps crossing each little bridge one day at a time. And I'm so impressed with her.
She's able to draw herself into her pictures now.
So now she draws herself. She drew a picture, her daughter into it, and it's been great. And she's just very involved. She's so connected now to her family. And she had this trip that she wanted to go on forever. She finally booked it. And she doesn't care if she's going alone. And she's putting herself out there to meet people in the universe. She wants to really start dating. She's an older woman, but she's really ready to start dating.
You know what, Susan? I bet there's a lot of people that could speak to that, because especially women, and we're so busy taking care of others in our lives that sometimes we so forget about us that we're drawing a picture of what's going to make them comfortable. What's the next thing for them? Let's celebrate what they just did. Yeah. And then when we ask us about ourselves, it's like, oh, no. I'm going to be at her thing tomorrow night, or I'm no, but we lose ourselves in it. And she lost herself.
Yeah, she lost herself in it. We all do. We all have that need to nurture. We grew up with Barbie dolls, putting the hair and like giving it tea and dressing it up and have tea parties and feeding our little, guests, dolls, and
hours and hours and hours.
And it's not like we take care of ourselves. Yes, it's wonderful. I do have 4 children. I have a husband, and I love giving them, but it took me a while to say, wow, what about me? What about me? I need something too in my life. And it's not that they're not part of my life. They're a very important part of my life. But there was something about Susan that wasn't shining, that stayed small and did not come out. And I'm just very blessed that I was able to come to a point in my life where I can find something and share something, and I feel energized by what I do and by helping others. The old metaphor about the stewardess on the plane. We have to be reminded to put the oxygen mask on ourselves before, because that's not something that comes naturally.
It's not. And one of the reasons I chose to be a reinvention coach versus any one of the 5 million types of coaches I could have been is not only because coaching is my reinvention, but because it's all about what's next. And we tend to forget about what's next.
Right.
You know, we think that we're doing what we're doing. We're supposed to be doing this.
Right.
This doesn't go on forever. There's a next chapter, you know? And I always talk about the idea of a book, right? Well, this book has, 19 chapters in it or 20 chapters in it. And there's a reason it doesn't start on page 1 and go to page 200 and whatever without the breaks. There's a pause between each thing. The authors, change point of view. The reader changes their thought process. And the same thing's true in life. We need to stop and say, okay, what's the next thing?
Right.
What am I doing for me in this chapter? Where do I want to be in within this? And what legacy do I want to create?
Exactly.
Yeah. So what else? You were telling you. So you said, the woman who was invisible. Were there any others that?
Yeah, there is. We're talking about a woman who has a hard time asking. She had a fear of asking because as a child, her mother, who had issues, was not very kind to her daughter every time she would ask a question. And so she had this fear of asking, even fear of asking her yoga teacher when the teacher offered them, and I want a bolster under her legs, she would be afraid to say, yeah, I do. And what was really interesting is in some of her drawings, she had stories where she created some line happened to cut through her throat. Mm-hmm. And we talked about, and we also did a body scan and see where in her body does it resonate. And it resonated in her throat. So it's all throat chakra, and the throat chakra itself is about communication and being able to ask and being able to express your needs and your desires and your wants. And then, so I actually had a journal daily to ask somebody anything and write down their response so she can visually see. Not everybody's going to respond the way her mother did.
Right.
And it was very helpful for her. I mean, it started off because she had a migraine. That's what it was, her migraine. Her drawing happened to be why. When was the first time she had a migraine? She had this cut through her throat, and like being strangled. It's like being strangled,
right off,
blood flow, and when your blood's constricted, your head throbs, so it makes sense. So, her headaches have been gone, and there's lots of stories. Another woman was afraid of speaking. Why? Because she drew a picture of her childhood. She was standing in front of the classroom, and there's the blackboard that she drew that the line cut through her throat. And when her kids were telling her to stop showing off, so she had a fear of speaking. So there's lots of fears of speaking because of what one kid or one parent or one somebody told us in the past that keeps getting caught in our head and it creates this loop that we just never seem to get out of, and we can't move forward in our life.
We can't
that negative talk.
Voice, right? And if we don't have a voice, then we can't know what's next for ourselves. Because if we know it, we can't say it, and we can't.
First, we have to know it in our heart, right? We need to know our passion, and we need to have knowledge and experience together. We're able to speak it.
Exactly. Awesome. So I want to take a couple of minutes and just tell people where they can find us and what we're up to and what we're doing. So I'm going to just start that. You can always reach me at randy@randylevincoaching.com and on my website, www.randylevincoaching.com, where you will always find all these conversations with the coach. They are living under the talk show tab, and this one will be too. It goes on as a YouTube. You'll also find all my events, my blog posts, and I'm a contributor for Huffington Post now, so that's out there as well. Again, www.randy.coaching.com. And my new book, Get Results, available on Amazon and paperback and Kindle. And again, that can be purchased through my website. It'll go right into the Amazon or at amazon.com /author/Randy Levin Coaching. I have another Conversations with the Coach coming up on 7/12 with executive team coach and really good friend Michael O'Brien, moving from aha into action from 8 to 9 p.m. on the 12th. That's the tools that you're going to need to get out of your head and into your heart, and really a celebration of self-awareness. Join us to find out what four-letter word has the most power. So that's kind of what's going on for me. I am pausing this summer. It doesn't seem like it, but I am. So not a lot of programming at this particular moment to fall. That's my deal. Susan, where do we find you?
You can find me at, you can email me at artmenshearts@gmail.com. My website is www.artmenshearts.com. We are going to be transferring over to a different website, but right now you can spot my old one as I'm creating a new one in the meantime. I am having my book called Life Sparks, and you can pre-order it on my website. I get a signed copy, and if you pre-order it, you can also get my bridge, and you can also have a 30-minute complimentary consultation phone call with me. And I will be doing a relationship webinar in about 3 weeks. Check out my website for that. Follow me also on Twitter and Facebook, Art Men's Hearts, and everything is good. Everything, I'm very blessed. I'm very grateful. And I thank you very much, Randy, for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, too. Does anyone have any questions who's on, or anything anybody wanted to add? I don't know. Anybody, even on audio, be fun. I know, Jessica, you do a lot of, not putting you on the spot, but I know you do a lot of art yourself. And you deal with a lot of students as well. So I don't know if there was something you wanted to add or any questions you had. Same thing with Lois. Anything that comes to mind? We'd love to hear from you or anybody else. I feel badly that poor gentleman couldn't finish his story. I don't know where he was going with that, but yeah.
Perhaps he'll find us on Twitter and email us.
Right, exactly. Some kind of vision around school here and his teacher, I assume. But you know, a lot of these things do start when we're in school and we're kids, obviously, and they stick with us. And sometimes it's a visual that becomes the story that we tell ourselves too. And you know, we talked about accepting the visuals and being vulnerable and bringing them in, but there's certain visuals you kind of want to let go of too, things that you're holding on to that may not be serving you quite as well. Like the woman with the cut in her neck, you know, that could put you on life support. That could be a problem.
Yeah, it could be, but we have to be present. We have to be mindful. We have to see everything. We have to see what's going on in our life so we can move forward.
Exactly. Well, thank you. So if we don't have any questions, which doesn't look like we do, I am going to go ahead and end this. Thank you so much, Susan. This was fun to sit and talk with you. And
it's been fun, and thank you for everybody showing up. I appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. And great to see you, and everybody who joined us, thank you. And good night. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.